There are few things more exciting as a football fan than seeing a big new signing make their much anticipated debut. There's so much intrigue and expectation as we look to make our first impressions of the man or woman donning our team's colours for the first time. In truth, we probably read a bit too much into it. Footballers typically arrive at clubs on multi-year contracts, so their first 90 minutes probably ought not to be given such a great weight of importance. Nonetheless, there are occasions when a debut can be very indicative of a player's future at a club. Sergio Aguero, for example, looked to be the real deal as he scored a brace off the bench in his debut for Manchester City against Swansea City, and he went on to become the club's all-time record goalscorer. Similarly, Wayne Rooney scored a hat-trick and provided an assist on his debut for Manchester United against Fenerbahce in the Champions League as an 18-year-old, and he too went on to become Manchester United's all-time record goalscorer. Or how about Lionel Messi, who was sent off just 2 minutes into his debut for Argentina at the age of 18 and was subsequently never heard of again? Oh no, wait, that's right. And that is sort of the point of today's video, a suggestion that comes courtesy of subscriber Frank123. Debuts are not always indicative of a player's future at a club. Sometimes a player can have an awful debut and turn out to be brilliant, and sometimes a player can look like a world beater on their debut and turn out to be a busted flush. And in today's video, we're going to take a look at some of the most glaring examples of both of these instances. Here are 7 footballers who had extremely misleading debuts. Federico Macheda at Manchester United. Federico Macheda. It's been a while since Rome's most famous son, screw Julius Caesar and Sophia Loren, has featured on this channel, but it is great to see that he has now found some consistency and is forging out a really respectable career for himself in Greece. But more on that in just a moment. Macheda's debut for Manchester United came in a pretty crucial game at the start of April 2008, as the Red Devils battled to be crowned as Premier League champions for a 3rd successive season. Going into the final straight of the season, or squeaky bum time as Sir Alex called it, Manchester United were locked in a 3-way fight for the Premier League title with Chelsea and Liverpool. The Red Devils had held top spot since mid-January, but following 4 months unbeaten, the club lost their 2 preceding games, going into that home tie with Aston Villa, in which Macheda made his debut. When the Italian was introduced, Manchester United were losing 2-1, and it looked as though a 3rd straight defeat might see the title slip away from them. However, Cristiano Ronaldo equalised in the 80th minute before Makeda picked up the ball, swivelled, and fired home in the 3rd minute of injury time. Manchester United won the game and the Premier League title. It was a stunning debut, not just in terms of the goal, but the magnitude of the game, and Makeda was only 17 years old. In his next 35 games for the club, Makeda only managed to score 4 more goals, and he was released by Manchester United in 2014 following a string of unsuccessful loan moves. Makeda has since played for Cardiff City, Nottingham Forest and Novara before settling with his current club, Panathinaikos. He has scored 36 goals in 98 games for the Greek Giants, which is a good record, but there were some who had much wilder expectations for him following that stunning debut. Henrik Larson at Celtic. In 2021, Henrik Larson is widely regarded as being one of, if not the greatest Celtic player of all time, alongside the pantheon of all-time greats ranging from Jimmy Johnston to Kenny Dalglish. The fact that he was signed for just £650,000 in 1997 makes Larson's accomplishments all the more impressive, and he had actually only scored 42 goals in 149 games for Feyenoord before arriving at Celtic Park, which is a decent record, but far from spectacular. 1 or 2 Celtic fans might have worried that they had signed a dud when Larson made his debut for the club then. He came on as a late substitute at Easter Road against Hibernian, with the scores tied at 1-1. In the dying embers of the match, Larson inadvertently passed the ball straight to Hib striker Sheikh Shanley, who graciously accepted the Swedes' gift, running through on goal and putting the ball into the back of the net. So, Celtic lost the game 2-1. And what's more, in his next match for the club, which was both Larson's full debut and his European debut for the club, he scored an own goal against Austrian outfit Tirol Innsbruck. At that point, Celtic fans really could be forgiven for fearing the worst. But it didn't take long for Larson to start doing what he did best, finding the back of the net and the right net this time around. He ended his debut campaign with 19 goals, but it was the following season when Larson began posting truly outrageous numbers, bagging 38 goals in 48 games. He went on to score 242 goals in 313 games for Celtic in total, bouncing back from a career-threatening injury to win 8 trophies and to go down as one of the finest centre-forwards of his generation, who played his best football on the green and white side of Glasgow. Willian at Arsenal. A much more recent example, it is of course still possible that Willian will go on to become a roaring success at Arsenal and age this video very poorly. But somehow I doubt it. There can be absolutely no doubt that Willian is an enormous talent. Capped 70 times by Brazil, during his peak at Chelsea, he was rapid, he covered an awful lot of ground, and he was incredibly difficult to keep quiet. With that being said, it is difficult to deny that Willian seemingly put in his finest and most lung-busting performances when his contract was coming to an end and he wanted either a new one or a big move elsewhere. Willian's final season was no exception, and the Blues were keen to keep hold of him, but only on a 2-year deal. Aged 31 and on the verge of turning 32, Willian wanted a 3-year deal, but Chelsea simply would not oblige, so Willian and his agent began to look elsewhere. They found interest from Arsenal, who were prepared to give Willian the length of contract that he desired, with reports suggesting that Willian became the second best paid player at Arsenal upon his arrival, trailing only Mesut Ozil on £220,000 a week. On his debut, Willian was excellent, putting in a virtuoso display away at newly promoted Fulham, which he rounded off with 2 assists in a 3-0 win. The newspapers and pundits were full of it. How stupid were Chelsea to let him join a direct rival, and what a masterstroke by Arsenal. It all seemed a tad premature to me, and I couldn't help but draw parallels with when the English press did the exact same thing following Nemanja Matic's move to Manchester United from Chelsea when he too had a decent start, seemingly totally unaware that his performance levels at Chelsea had been on the wane for a little while and that £40 million is a pretty substantial fee. Anyhow, following his debut heroics, Willian was fairly rubbish, for want of a better word. His performances at the Emirates have been sluggish, his effort levels have dropped, and his impact has been minute. In February 2021, when Willian made an assist against Leicester City, it was his first goal contribution in more than 4 months. He only scored 1 goal and made 5 assists from 37 appearances all season. Willian may have arrived on a free, but he's still expected to cost Arsenal £35 million throughout the duration of his contract. And I haven't heard too many pundits lambasting Chelsea or praising Arsenal for the deal, which took him to the Emirates since his excellent debut. Zlatan Ibrahimovic at AC Milan. Zlatan Ibrahimovic is a man who has had more debuts than most, having made 12 transfers throughout the course of his playing days, in addition to making his Sweden debut some 20 years ago. Unsurprisingly then perhaps, despite being such a magnificent player, Ibrahimovic's debuts have been good, bad and ugly. On his Manchester United debut in the Community Shield, he headed home the winner against Leicester City, and a week later, he scored from range against Bournemouth during his Premier League debut. His LA Galaxy debut was probably his most memorable debut of all though, as Ibrahimovic scored twice, including a half volley from 45 yards out, and a winner via his forehead in injury time as the Galaxy came back from 2 goals down to win 4-3 in the El Tráfico derby versus Los Angeles FC. It is Zlatan's first AC Milan debut in the summer of 2010 though that earns him a spot in this 7. Back in Milan, on loan from Barcelona, where he had been pushed out due to Lionel Messi's move to a more central position, there was no lack of drama surrounding the Swede signing for the red side of the San Siro, having previously been a hero at Inter Milan. On his debut against the Minnows of Cesena, Ibrahimovic wasn't able to exert any influence upon the game. In the dying embers of the match, the 86th minute to be precise, with Milan trailing 2-0, the Rossoneri won a penalty. Ibrahimovic grabbed the ball and stepped up, as he always does, but this time his cushioned strike hit the right side of the goalpost and bounced wide. Milan had missed their opportunity to get back into the game, and Ibrahimovic's debut ended in despair. Those emotions wouldn't last long. The towering Swede bounced back to bag 21 goals that season as AC Milan claimed the Serie A title, and they haven't won a single Scudetto since then. Ibrahimovic scored a whopping 35 goals the season after that, before departing for PSG. He is now back, starring for AC Milan at San Siro, aged 39, where he has scored 28 goals in 47 games. Kevin Caveto. My apologies for the lack of images in this segment, or at least the lack of relevant images, but I'm afraid this was the example that Frank gave me with his suggestion, and I wasn't about to let Getty's lack of images, or again, relevant images, dent my reputation as the People's Channel. Kevin Caveto is without doubt the least well-known name in this 7, unless perhaps you are part of the 0.3% of HITC Sevens viewers who are from Peru, where Caveto is quite well known. Aged 24, Caveto came through the youth ranks at Universitario before joining cross-city rivals and fellow Peruvian giants Alianza Lima in 2017, when he was only 20 years old. On his debut for Alianza, Caveto scored a 38-minute hat-trick against Juan Henrik in a stunning 7-2 win, and there was a sense that Alianza might have someone special on their hands, the next big thing within the Peruvian game. However, following 4 goals in one game on his Alianza debut, Caveto could only manage just under 1 goal every 4 games over the entirety of his 3 years with the club. Capped by Peru for the first and only time to date in September 2019 against Ecuador, Caveto left Alianza at the start of 2020 to join Brazilian outfit Goiás, but he is now back in Peru, starring for FBC Melgar. Thiago Silva at Chelsea. A second example from last season. Again, it is possible that I'm jumping the gun a little with this one, but again, somehow I doubt it. Thiago Silva is one of the finest centre-backs of his generation. Incredibly complete at his peak, Silva was quick, strong, powerful in the air, good at reading the game, and very capable on the ball. However, when Silva made his Premier League debut for Chelsea last summer, a day after turning 36, it is fair to say that there were some doubts about whether he was still quite so complete and capable of dealing with the rigours of playing in the Premier League. Those fears appear to have been confirmed as Silva dawdled in possession, gifting the ball to Callum Robinson, who scored his second goal to put the Baggies 2-0 up. Things went from bad to worse when Carl Bartley made it 3-0 before 3 Chelsea Academy graduates, Mason Mount, Callum Hudson-Odoi and Tammy Abraham, spared Silva's blushes, with 3 second-half goals to tie the game at 3-3. As it turned out, Silva was seemingly just allergic to playing against West Brom, as later on that season he was sent off against them as the Blues lost 5-2 to Sam Allardyce's men at Stamford Bridge. When he wasn't playing against the ultimately relegated Birmingham side though, Silva was very impressive, and he showed few signs of any ageing or wearying legs. He made 34 appearances in all competitions, playing a particularly pivotal role in the Champions League, which Chelsea won, handing Silva the first Champions League crown of his distinguished career at the age of 36. Jaap Stam at Manchester United. Manchester United are the only team to feature twice in this 7, with 2 very contrasting debut appearances by 2 players who had very contrasting careers with the club. Jaap Stam joined Manchester United from PSV for a little over £10 million in the summer of 1998, in what was a world record fee for a defender at the time. The centre-back was able to command such a sizable fee due to his rare combination of speed, strength, anticipation, and confidence on the ball, but his Manchester United debut didn't quite follow the script. Stam's debut for the Red Devils came in the 1998 Community Shield against Arsenal at Wembley Stadium, where he started at centre-back alongside Ronnie Johnson. Sir Alex had been chasing Stam's signature for some time, and given the hefty fee, there was much excitement among the United faithful to see Stam in action for the club for the first time. However, up against the speed of Nicolas Anelka and the guile of his international teammate Dennis Bergkamp, Stam was torn to shreds. The teenage Anelka in particular was simply too quick for him, with the blistering pace of Mark Overmars also contributing to a whirlwind debut for the Dutchman. Manchester United lost 3-0, but it was probably Stam's worst performance for the club. Over the next 2.5 seasons, Stam was an absolute titan at the back, winning the Premier League title in all 3 seasons and going down as one of the club's all-time greatest defenders, despite his relatively short stay at Old Trafford. He was sold to Lazio for £16 million following an injury and an autobiography which Sir Alex is said to have taken offence to. Despite the huge fee upon his departure, Ferguson conceded in 2007 that selling Stam was one of the biggest mistakes of his managerial career. So that is it for today's video, but thank you ever so much, as ever, for watching this video. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, hit the like button if you enjoyed today's video, and make sure that you're subscribed and have notifications turned on. Of course, it would be foolish not to, for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on Twitter or Instagram by the username at HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.